Hello and welcome to this Opening Spaces series about open space technology. If you don't have an idea of what is open space, you'll learn a lot about this wonderful tool to open space for powerful conversations in our workplaces and in our communities. Today, I have the pleasure to introduce you to a mentor in the open space technology community. His name is Steve Hollier. Steve holds a commitment to the power of invitation. Um, he's a workplace transformation consultant and a coach, a trainer, and a facilitator who is passionate about the life-changing magic of open space. He's held inclusive generative open space in places like Germany, Kenya, Romania, South Africa, and the USA. He's also held open space for penguins. Hi, Steve. How are
Hey,
you?
I'm good. I'm good. This is,
I'm so happy that you accepted our invitation. Steve, you've worked a lot with tech whiz in the software development industry. You've worked also in other big companies. Um, and you told me something really that I love. That is, I'm passionate about space. It will change the world. Could you let us know a little bit more about this?
yeah. Well, first, I think I intended to say I'm passionate about open space. It will change the world. And it's interesting how these coincidental slips happen. I guess I just left out the word open and said I'm passionate about space. It will change the world. But actually, when I hear that coming back, it sounds really important that open space will change the world. I really believe that, and we can expand it just a little bit further. This is not what I'm thought of until I heard it coming back from you. We can expand it a little bit farther by just saying space will change the world. What does it mean to hold space, make space, honor space?
Mhm. Yes. And I noticed personally that the more I open space inside of myself, I tended to be so cluttered inside with old beliefs and, patterns and things that repeat constantly, unconsciously in my life. And since I take more time to open space inside of me, it really changes my world. So I find this is space is very powerful, and we'll talk about how we can open space in our businesses because you're using open space technology in for very important issues in businesses, and it's really a powerful tool. But you've also worked in South Africa where you met penguins. You worked, could you tell us a little bit more about your experience and how it made you discover new things about your business practices?
Yeah, yes. Well, yeah, I love penguins because I mean, who doesn't love penguins? If you don't love penguins, I mean, I'm wondering just a little bit. Um, I have a I just thought of this today. This is kind of silly, but I have a friend, and when we talk, he also loves penguins. And when we talk about penguins, and I don't know, just a silly thing we say penguins are the best people.
Hmm.
Uh, and unfortunately, occasionally people are the worst people, but penguins are the best people. And we say be a little bit more like a penguin, but I was just thinking today in the principles of open space, whoever comes is the right people. And if you had penguins are the best people, then you've got to have penguins in open space. At least that's my theory. Um, I've I travel to South Africa a lot. I really enjoy the coast of South Africa around the Cape Town area. And there's a colony of penguins that live um, live there. Actually, this picture in my background is the Boulders Beach where the colony of penguins live. That
Mm.
was I didn't plan that. I used several backgrounds, and that happened to be the one that was up there. But that there is I'm sitting in front of the one penguin that's on the beach in that picture. But that is a beach on South Africa where a colony of penguins lives. And I visited that beach. I was at that beach for the first time around 2004. And I just thought these creatures are cute and funny and magnificent. And I felt a connection there. I mean, I have so many stories and I can't tell them all, but my first penguin encounter, there's a nature reserve where the penguins are protected, and as you can't go down on those beaches, but the penguins can follow the law of mobility, and they are able to swim from that beach to the beach next door, which is a public beach. And so you can swim on that beach and perhaps a penguin comes and swims with you. And I was there with a friend, and it was this time of year, which means it was a very nice spring in South Africa, because it's November for us. That's a nice spring in South Africa. And my friend and I were laying on a rock, sunning in the sun, and we were watching some other tourists. The gentleman wanted to catch a penguin, which is, you don't do that. But he kept chasing the penguin until the penguin bit him. And and we just said, well, don't chase the penguins. We'll watch the penguins from the distance. I fell asleep in the sun, and when I woke up, the penguins were sleeping all around me.
So that tells us
came
a
to
lot
me.
about, yes, and I think it's a beautiful example of how we are used to try to control everything in our lives. This gentleman was trying to control a penguin, and opening space is all about letting go of control.
Mm-hmm. Yes, and you just made me think of invitation. Open space is about inviting, which I didn't make much of an invitation to the penguins, but I did. I suppose maybe they sensed that I would like to be close to them. I don't know. Me falling asleep, I was probably on their rock. Now I've been to the beach long enough to know that is one of their favorite rocks. I didn't know it at the time. So falling asleep was an invitation for them to come to me, which is, again, open space.
And you probably emanated the love for the penguins also. So they followed the love.
That's how we made
So
our connection.
that is such a beautiful image of things coming to us and people coming to us when we just emanate, and emanating is kind of an invitation. But when we organize an open space event, we really choose a topic and a formula for the invitation that really speaks to the heart of the people. And that formula, that invitation is really thought about to really emanate and touch the heart of all the people who are concerned about this powerful question.
Right. I notice I come from a technology background, and so many of and right now I work as an agile coach, coaching people in new ways of working, and open space has become very popular within the agile community. However, in our technical field, I find many people that are practicing open space by repeating something that they've seen, just running through a script of something they've seen someplace else, kind of, I'm calling it copy pasting. They copy paste one event onto another one. And what people are missing, I believe, is that sense of invitation. So in the technical spaces, we're often not really inviting people to solve an urgent problem. We're not really inviting people to bring their passion. And so it's a different kind. I think that's a different kind of open space. I think something's missing. And I also like to talk to people about how can we open space and open space will change the world, but how can we invite that? How can we set the conditions for that to happen? And one thing is that invitation. And unfortunately, I do see people miss that. And I don't want to talk negative. I mean, saying people miss it is kind of talking negative. I want to invite more invitation. That's what I want to say.
And you're giving an awesome course about the spirit of open space technology. So, as you said, it is possible to just copy paste something that we've seen before in an open space event, but it's so wonderful to really understand, to go deeper into the spirit of this technique. And it becomes so much more powerful then. So we'll talk a little bit more about your course a little bit later, but there is something else that I would like you to share on. It's the marine protected areas. You told me before this recording that it really inspired you also in your business practices to look what's happening in the marine protected areas. Could you tell us more about that, please?
Right. The marine protected areas are something that I've recently become very acquainted with. They're fascinating. For me, they're a fascinating thing. I mentioned, of course, I feel a real connection to the South African penguins. And I mentioned being on this beach with them that's pictured behind me. Unfortunately, the penguins' homes are on islands off the coast. I believe penguins more or less practice open space. They are known as some of the most adaptable marine life. And I believe they basically, I mean, unfortunately, I'm not speaking with the penguins, but I believe that they don't probably have the narrative development to be able to describe it as open space, but I feel like they're using open space principles to be very adaptable. And one thing that they've done as Europeans came and destroyed their habitats on their islands is that they moved some colonies by themselves. They self-organized to move some colonies to these beaches that are on the land. The fact that the penguins are there is already a sign that the system, the world ecosystem, is out of whack. People miss that. There's a Netflix special that shows the cute penguins on this beach. They're very cute, but we're missing the fact that there's already something terribly wrong in the system that they're even there. I usually weep when I talk about this because I can't bear the thought that with the dwindling breeding pairs of penguins, of South African penguins, most of the penguin species are in danger from climate change. But the South African species is the dwindling. There's fewer and fewer breeding pairs, and by current trends, in less than 25 years, the last South African penguin in the wild will be gone. And that means that the species of magnificent creatures who have existed since more or less the time of the dinosaurs. Some theories say that they actually are dinosaurs that just never went extinct, and that's the theory I like, even though it's not the theory that's backed up by the most evidence. That these magnificent creatures who've been around since the dinosaurs have 25 years left on this earth, which means also by statistics, I'll still be alive when the last penguin dies. And I just can't say goodbye to the last penguin. So I'm saying not on my watch, whatever I can do, I want to do. So I'm kind of talking around your question because I find that part of the story is important. I think one thing in the wicked issue of climate change and extinction level events, actually open space technology can help bring the communities together to find, I think that might be the most, that's the maybe the thing that will expand the problem space enough that we can do something. I also have to acknowledge that in the principles of open space, it's over when it's over. And it may be over for the penguins. But I really can't bear to say goodbye. So I'm going to keep working on that. Now, you mentioned the marine protected areas. What the marine protected areas are protected marine areas. It's just in the name. What governments do is that they set aside portions of the marine environment and protect them from human encroachment. So they've also been described as nature reserves under the water. There's some interesting definitions because the definitions include mangrove forests because of the marine conditions, although they're not as much under the water. It's the whole ecosystem. But anyway, what people do is that they set aside and hold a space for marine life. And I mean, I think the parallels to actual open space technology are pretty big. You're setting aside a space. The animals have full mobility. They can enter that space and leave that space. Actually, they can't really read our signs and our posters. So I don't think the animals necessarily know when they're in the marine protected space and when they're out of it, but they can go into that space. And when they're in that space, the marine life is able to self-organize, which is what life does. They're able to self-organize without the interference of the human species, or with less interference from the human species. And people are finding is that in those spaces, marine life is thriving. And that some people think that's the most effective way we have to save our planet. If we don't save the oceans, we're not going to be able to save the planet. And these marine protected areas may be the most effective way to save the planet. Now, here's the good news with penguins. I bring it back to the penguins. The South African penguins are in danger. There is another colony of penguins that moved onto land that's not at the beach that's behind me. They're at Betty's Bay, which is a short drive away from this. And at the Betty's Bay colony is the only colony that's not decreasing in numbers. Mm. And I think I don't think it's a coincidence that the Betty's Bay colony just happens to be located right next to a marine protected area. And that is the only place where penguins are beginning to thrive in South Africa. And I realized that's literally open space that people can hold for those penguins and for other marine life. Octopi, shy sharks, it's an endemic species to South Africa. Many kinds of marine life, even seals. I have a no seals policy because seals feed on penguins, but they are life, and we also respect that. Open space calls for diversity, including the seals, I suppose. But yeah, so these marine protected areas are literally open space that people hold for penguins. I hope to hold some open spaces about how to create more marine protected areas, so it goes back and forth using open space to do open space in another way.
That's a beautiful idea. And it's incredible how we can inspire ourselves as leaders in our businesses. We can really be inspired by nature. And what a powerful example are the marine protected areas. That's beautiful.
I'm seeing in business that everybody is struggling in our complex communities, all entangled. Our communities are all entangled, and the business leaders are asking themselves, and not the official business leaders and the people who are effectively the workers who are effectively leading as well, are asking what's the right way to work in 2022, 2023, 2024 in the face of everything going on. And I'm having the experience is that setting aside open space, well-run open space with a full invitation creates change in the business. It serves as almost a laboratory. I want to do a real open space with real problems, but as people are in this open space, they're experiencing a different way of working. And so it turns out to be quite a laboratory for developing new ways of working, I believe. And in addition, sorry, I'm drawing a blank here.
Yes, it helps us really to develop new ways of working and of thriving together, just like the marine life in the marine protected areas. It creates a safe space. And while you're talking to me, I'm wondering, would that be the new way of being a leader in our communities, in our businesses, in our families, to really master the spirit of opening space all the time, everywhere we are? Wouldn't that be so transformative? Will be real alchemy.
Well, I really think so. That's where I lost my train of thought. Because people that do these open spaces, I mean, I firmly believe that a big part of open space technology is that you're setting aside a time and a place that you're holding. And so an open space event probably has a few days, because however, when you start working in that mindset, when you start understanding these principles, there are always opportunities in business to lean more in the direction of working with those principles and the laws of mobility. There's another penguin story. There's a few books and people who talk about penguins as a leadership example, and a lot of them talk about you can't ask penguins to fly unless you train them. And then somebody will point out, well, penguins aren't going to fly. That's not fit. Their open space didn't lead them to being able to fly. People get very sad that penguins don't fly, but actually I get very sad when people say that penguins don't fly, because actually penguins do fly.
They are who they are.
I told somebody else this. They said, Steve, you're pulling my leg. I know penguins don't fly, but they do. If you watch, penguins use their wings to move through water the same way that other birds use their wings to move through air. So it's all fluid dynamics. It's whether the fluid is gaseous or liquid. And penguins are the only birds who are able to fly in a liquid medium. And if you watch them, they fly exactly like starlings and eagles. And so there, the leadership question isn't, why don't my penguins fly? The leadership question is, where will my penguins fly? How will I hold the space for them to fly? How will I hold the marine protected area for them to fly?
So which space is best?
How will I recognize that they're flying, rather than restricting their mobility and saying, yeah, the penguins can't fly.
Wow, so powerful. So for the people who want to learn more about this new way of being a leader in communities, in businesses, in your families, even people who know open space technology, who have participated in events, even facilitators, and also people who don't know anything about open space technology. They're just curious. They would like to know more. So they are all welcome to your course. It's the Open Space leadership course. Could you tell us a little bit more about it? And I'll put the link to your website for people to go there and subscribe.
Yes, of course. This is an exciting, the Open Space Leadership course is an exciting course that my colleague, Deborah Hartman-Preuss, put together back in 2014 and 15. And it was created to be an online experience. So it's been mobile first, even before everybody was working in a mobile way. We will also, when conditions permit, bring the course on site. I was in the first cohort, actually, that she led, and I found it was life-changing. I had been to many open space events that were incredible, which is why I wanted to learn more about open space. And they were lacking in that power to actually change the world. And that's what I learned in this course was the simple rules and frameworks that are in classic open space. So a few years ago, I asked Deb to license the course, and I began teaching the course. What we do is we teach classic open space, and by classic open space, I mean this is the open space that is described in the book, the Open Space Technology User's Guide by Harris and Owen. And one of the questions we ask, people are always saying, yes, but I want to do something else. I want that's not classic open space. And what we do in this course is we talk about, well, is what you want to do, is it opening more space? Then maybe consider it. Is it allowing the free mobility? Then maybe consider it. If it's going to restrict the mobility, and many of these things that people want to do with open space is either not opening more space, it might be closing space, restricting mobility. If it's going to restrict mobility, I'd invite you to find something else to do. I won't say we won't add to classic open space. However, I find most of the things that people want to do are accommodated in classic open space and in a way that doesn't hinder mobility and opens more space. So we spend just a very little bit of time teaching the mechanics of open space. And we rely on the people in our learning cohorts to read the books and the literature, read the blog posts, because they tell you the mechanics. We don't have to spend the time in our cohort lecturing on the mechanics. You get those mechanics. And what we spend our time doing is talking about that mindset, what it means to open space, how this is different than anything else that you've done as a facilitator, probably, how this will affect the way you facilitate other things in the future. That's where we spend our time. So yes, when we have 6 to 8 people to join a cohort, we run a workshop, and right now we're gathering people into our cohort, and we'll start that cohort next week, actually. Would love to have some more people join that cohort, and then after that we'll start forming the next cohort, and when we have 6 to 8 people, we'll run the workshop again. Hopefully in January, February, we'll try to run it again.
And if people view this video many years from now, they will probably still have more, or many weeks from now, there will be more cohorts. So we invite you to go to Steve's website. What is the name of your company, Steve?
So Deb and I formed a venture. My company is Engage Results. However, Deb and I put together a little joint venture back in, was it 2015? To create community online, and we called that Coaching Cocktails, because we often meet like we were meeting over cocktails. And we always say a coaching cocktail never has to be alcoholic, but please make it refreshing. It can be alcoholic, but yeah, that's not the focus here. Refreshing is the focus here. And because that's also our venture for doing remote work. We offer the course under coachingcocktails.com. So it's coachingcocktails.com OS workshop.
Awesome. And you talked about the user's guide by Harrison Lowen for open space technology, which is a wonderful book. I love to read it again and again. Harrison has an awesome sense of humor. So it's very easy to read and very fun. So to learn the basics of open space technology, this is really the tool for the people who really want to dive into the essence of open space technology and share with other practitioners or other people who are curious to learn more about it. Your course is really a jewel. So we invite everybody who loved this conversation about the penguins and about the marine protected areas and how they can inspire us as leaders. We invite you to go to Steve and Deb's website, coachingcocktails.com, and I'll put the link. So thank you so much for being here with us, Steve. Thank you for telling us about your wonderful experience in South Africa. And thank you for you who watched our conversation. We invite you to subscribe to our channel, and we'll see you another time for another very interesting interview about opening spaces. Bye.